Macabre Cast.
The devil's on the loose and he's dancing with the mummy.
Join us around Horrorwood and into territory of terror. There's just one way to handle the worcifers and the spoilers, and that's with me, Dark Mark, and Karis, the Little Mummy, and the smell of Macabre Cast. Doc Mark and Karis, the Little Mummy, here to bring you another episode of Macabre Cast, where we'll be dropping R's where they belong and adding them where they don't. Karis, I just realized today, this is embarrassing, but Nancy Parsons, who was in Motel Hell, guilty pleasure of mine, and played Ida Smith in Motel Hell, was also Ballbricker in Porky's. How did I not see this before? Sadly, she died in 2001, but how did I never make this connection?
This really isn't a tough one. I mean, it seems and looks pretty obvious to me.
I don't know. I just never put the two together for whatever reason. February 25th, The Ones Who Live, the spinoff from Walking Dead that everyone's been waiting for, and the return of Rick Grimes. Now, I know some of you out there like Grim Kim could care less and gave up on Walking Dead a long time ago. I myself have probably now watched the 11 seasons at least 3 times through. I love the show. I love the writing, love the story, and very much looking forward to that. Oh, Horror Chat Matt's on the line. Hopefully I'm not going to take a beating for my Shining comments and opinions.
Hey, Dark Mark and Karis, Hard Chat Matt here, checking in from the Overlook Hotel bar, where I just finished watching Macabre Cast, episode 37. Fantastic job, as always. Grim Kim's question about a movie that you've watched at different points in your life and how the lens of time has changed your opinion on it. 2 of them immediately popped into my head. The Exorcist and Poltergeist. Poltergeist I enjoyed from the very beginning. I saw it when I was about 8 or 9 and loved it. And it's only gotten better over the years. The Exorcist I saw when I was about 12 or 13 with my best friend. And we pretty much just laughed throughout the whole movie. We definitely were not mature enough for that movie and some of the inappropriate language and more off-the-wall scenes. As I grew older, I definitely learned to appreciate the movie more. And it wasn't until I became a father that movie truly became terrifying to me. And the same goes for Poltergeist. The thought of not being able to help your child is a pretty terrible thing to have to think about. So those are 2 movies for sure that my view has changed on over the years. Dark Mark, as far as your take on The Shining goes, I think you're pretty spot on, so you don't have to worry about me coming after you with an axe or anything like that. And speaking of Jack Torrance and enjoying a good drink, I was curious what your favorite beverage is, alcohol or non, when you're enjoying a good horror movie. Myself, personally, I always like to crush it like Quint and grab a nice cold tall boy Narragansett. A couple others recently that I've been trying to track down as I've been out. I've noticed a lot more horror-themed style beers that I definitely like to try. A couple right off the top of my head were Two Roads Brewing makes a really tasty pumpkin ale, and it's called Rosemary's Baby. Pretty good stuff. Another one, which was a no-brainer for me right off the bat, I didn't even care what was in the cans, is from Mason Ale Works, and they make it's called Dankenstein's Monster, which is a double IPA, and then Bride of Dankenstein, which is a regular IPA. And the cans just pop right off the shelf to me, especially since they came in glow-in-the-dark cans. So definitely a must-buy for myself. Today, as a matter of fact, I picked up a couple. I haven't had a chance to try them yet, but they're from Four Quarters Brewing Company. And one's called This Place is Haunted, which is another IPA, which I feel most beers are these days. And the other one is Vampire Death Wish, which is a sour ale with sour cherries and blood orange. Definitely a good beer to enjoy a vampire flick with. My wife always tends to ask me what takes me so long in the liquor store, and it's mostly because I have to look at all the different cans and their artwork, much like VHS tape covers in the old days, trying to select a good horror movie off of the artwork alone. And speaking of terrific artwork, and my wife, neither one of us are big wine drinkers, but there is a company, I forget the name of it, you have to order it online. It's not sold around here. But they make a whole line of horror movie themed wines. And they have quite a few different Friday the 13th bottles of wine that I would love to display down in my horror section. Well, it looks like Lloyd, the bartender, is telling me that I'm rambling on long enough, and he's going to shut me off if I don't stop talking, so...
Your money's no good here. Orders from the house.
Keep up the great work, Dark Mark, and cheers to you and the rest of the Macabre Cast crew.
Thanks, Horror Chat. I saw The Exorcist on HBO when it came on HBO. I don't know what age I was. I'm sure I was young. Never found that movie funny. If anything, made me be a stronger Catholic. Never laughed at that film. And I'm not a big IPA guy. I don't want a beer that has, 15% alcohol by volume or whatever. I'm a Miller Lite guy. And when I'm looking for that drink that's a little stiffer, definitely a Jack Daniels on ice type of guy. Jack Daniels. And these things going into the public domain, like Winnie the Pooh and Steamboat Willie or the Mickey Mouse, and then these movie companies instantly jump on them and make them into gory horror films. I haven't had 1 ounce of interest in seeing these movies. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, Mickey's Mousetrap. Has anyone out there seen these movies? Am I totally missing out? I just have no interest in this.
Ew, seriously? That is so gross.
Okay, I know I'm probably getting way too excited about this Peacock show that's coming out, this Crystal Lake show that is like a prequel to the Friday 13th. But, I'm getting jazzed here because Kevin Williamson, who wrote Scream, is at least writing 1 episode. Adrienne King, who was Alice in the original, will be in it. In what way, we don't know. She's probably going to be a new character. She also makes her own wine, by the way, because I know Horror Chat Matt was talking about horror movie wines. And I know she has one out, I think it's called Crystal Lake. Victor Miller, one of the writers of the original few in the franchise, along with Brian Fuller, will be executive producing. And the show will have access to elements from the entire franchise. That's very exciting. I'm getting all hyped up for the show. I hope it does not let me down.
Have a little faith, Dark.
Don't start chiming in on the show, Satan. Not today, Satan. Danny Boyle, the director of 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, has begun developing 28 Years Later. And the rumor mill is saying Cillian Murphy may be reprising his role as Jim. Now, if you haven't seen 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, these are zombie films, and I know people have kind of had it these days with zombie films. You've got to check these movies out. These were great films. Very excited about this.
Considering some of the horror movies you like, that Doesn't take much.
And now it's time for a new segment called Horrible Mention. And if you have a horrible mention you'd like to suggest, you know what to do. Just send me that voice message.
Oh, I get it. Instead of honorable mention, horrible mention, because it's bad.
Yeah, thanks for dumbing it down for us, Karis. Anyway, it's time for Horrible Mention. Horrible Mention. This week's Horrible Mention goes to Possession from 1981, starring Sam Neill. This was a movie that for years I had trouble tracking down till Shudder finally put it out there. And after waiting all this time to see it, boy, was I disappointed. That was rough to sit through. I'm sorry, I don't get what everybody is so gaga about, but Possession, horrible mention. Deep Death Dive. So last week, I took a deep death dive into The Shining. And deep depth dive is analyzing and going into a film way beyond just talking about the plot of the film. Sometimes it's analyzing situations or things that happen, or maybe even comparing them to the book if they came from one. This week's deep death dive is the 1980s film by John Carpenter, Christine, based on the Stephen King novel. And no, deep death dive is not going to be about Stephen King every week, although I know this is the second time and it's already about Stephen King. I'm sure Horror Chat Matt will be happy about this, but it will not always be about Stephen King. What I want to talk about, Christine, is what John Carpenter did with the source material. Because if I remember correctly in the book, it mostly focused on the spirit of the person who owned the car before, kind of doing the killing or the possessing. And Horror Chat Matt, if I'm wrong, don't beat me up, but just correct me. But I believe that that's what it was about. Carpenter, however, made it more about the car that was, whether it was possessed by the spirit or not, it was more about the car and the shell of a car that embodied evil. Much like Halloween, that had come out years before, the shell of a man that embodied evil. Almost like if you went with the fact that Michael Myers was destroyed and killed at the end of Halloween 2 in the fire, that almost like that evil left the body and inhabited the car. You could kind of play it off like that. And a lot of the locations in Christine look very similar to the locations in Halloween, which I'm sure that was because that's where they set up and that's where they like to film. But it also almost gives that eerie sequel to Halloween vibe. What do you think? Deep Death Dive. And Grim Kim, if you're listening, well, I looked on...
Listening? Of course she's listening. The second you said her name, her ears perked up, and a big smile came across her face.
Well, I recently saw Horror Trivial Pursuit on Amazon. Now, it's $27. I don't know what it cost at Newberry, but I'm sure that they're more expensive there. And you did mention you wanted to play this game with us, and, you know, Horror Chat Matt's only going to wait so long before he scoops one up and takes over that Dungeon Master role that we all talked about. Until next time, stay on the road, keep clear of the moors, and beware the moon. But most of all, be good to yourself. This is Dark Mark, signing off. See you soon.